Private versus public transportation and its effects on greenhouse gases. When it comes to CO2 emissions, America leads the world with the help of the transportation sector. According to Southworth and Sundberg in the journal article Set of Comparable Carbon Footprints for Highway Travel in Metropolitan America, the transportation sector accounts for 33% of CO2 emissions, and it holds a responsibility for 44% growth of CO2 emissions between 1980 and 2001. It grows at an annual growth rate of 4%, and by the year 2030, we will see a net 10% net increase. Although the transportation sector emits other greenhouse gases, carbon dioxide accounts for 95% of its emissions. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change and other governments around the world have called for a plan of reduction for these emissions. That's where you come in. We as citizens can simply just help reduce these emissions by changing our transportation methods from a privately owned vehicle to a more public transportation use. I recently did an English paper on the Federal Highway Act of 1956, which a portion of it I focused on transportation and its CO2 emissions. I will briefly discuss my findings in this paper, for I think it's relevant to this topic, and it shows how America got to its present state on the issue of global warming. In 1956, President Dwight D. Eisenhower passed the Federal Highway State Act, and his intentions for this bill was to expand, connect, and defend America, and it did just that. But it also changed our nation from a car-dependent, changed our nation to more of a car-dependent society. The automobile industry saw it as a subsidy, while public transportation sectors saw it as a dismissal of its service. As the automobile became more and more of a necessity, more and more Americans began to move further away from the inner city simply because of convenience. They no longer have to plan their days around a trolley, bus, or train schedule. They can just simply hop in their vehicles and go wherever they please. According to Gronzi and al. In the journal article An Empirical Analysis of Urban Form, Transport, and Global Warming, reducing these CO2 emissions in regards to transportation will improve local health and well-being. These goals can simply be achieved by us changing our transportation system methods from privately owned vehicles to a more public transportation use. For instance, if you stay near the vicinity of your job, try cycling or walking to work. It emits zero CO2 emissions, and it's a great way of exercise. If you decide not to bike and you live further away from the vicinity of your job, try riding a bus. You will still be contributing to CO2 emissions, but it will be cut significantly when compared to privately owned vehicles. You also may have to pay a small fee, but it beats paying for a full tank of gas each week. If you stay long distances away from your work, and you don't want to take the bus or the bus is too slow, try riding the train. According to Lucy Siegel in a magazine article, Escape Carbon Offsetting, trains are the best low-carbon travel option by miles. That brings me to Portland, Oregon. Portland, Oregon has incorporated all of these transportation system methods into its city's infrastructure. According to Chaotic Planning Handcuffs Green Living, Portland, Oregon is one of the greatest models of public transportation and infrastructure within its city boundaries. As you can see in this picture, it's the layout of some of its transportation system methods within its city. They have 2 lanes designated for just cars and vehicles. They have 1 lane designated for buses and another lane designated for their light rail. They also have a biking lane, and as you can see, they have a sidewalk for pedestrians. And in this picture is their public transportation systems stretching out to every boundary of its city. If these people can do it, if this city can do it, why can't we? Think about it. If you have more people transforming into this public transportation system method, you have less cars on the freeways and they will be emitting less CO2 emissions. You will also be cutting your CO2 emissions significantly, almost more than half. If you're that bold, you can even try biking and walking everywhere to your destinations, but who really wants to do that? But it's food for thought. But by simply just changing the way that you transport to different destinations, you will be improving your health and the environment. Remember, America is leading the world in CO2 emissions. It is time for a change. Will you help the change today?